with everybody. Good. So welcome to the Leeds Trinity Business Network. Lovely to see you all today. I'll talk a bit, this is my last network and I'll talk a bit about that at the end. I want to get straight into the session. So today we're going to be talking about reinvention as a theme. And we thought this would be pretty pertinent because the last year with the pandemic, we've seen all sorts of businesses and people that we know reinvent themselves. And then actually we thought in any time of our lives, we need to think about reinvention and what that means and how we can best do it and when we should do it and lessons we can learn from others about doing it. And I know a lot of the network members like yourselves are entrepreneurs and run your own businesses. So, you know, you are your business. It's a very personal thing. So what we wanted to do was, you know, share some life lessons in reinvention from two people who've been through it. So I'm absolutely delighted to welcome Dawn O'Keefe and Todd Hannula from Shine, an award-winning social enterprise that many of you will know and have heard of. Both Dawn and Todd have been supporters of Leeds Trinity University for many years. Dawn has offered lots of placements at Shine and has been on our employer advisory board, so worked with them for a long time. But they have set up a business and thrived a business through really difficult times, and they've had to reinvent themselves, and they've set up multiple ventures over the years. So they very kindly offered to share their story with you, and hopefully you will get from that some tips and recommendations for your own reinventions. After the session, we'll send out a great sheet that Todd and Dawn's pulled together with further reading and help and support, and their 7 lessons from their journey of reinvention. So I'll be asking them questions, bit of a Q&A throughout, and there'll be a chance for you at the end to ask questions also. So you can put your questions in the chat, or you can put your hand up with the hand function at the end when we get to that time. So I hope that sounds okay to you. So Dawn, Todd, welcome. Would you like to just introduce yourselves and talk a little bit about Shine and what this session will be about?
Sure. Thanks for having us, by the way. And wow, chuffed to see so many people. This is fantastic. Do you want to
some
introduce
familiar faces as well, Nick? Hi, Nick. Yes, Dawn O'Keefe, I'm Managing Director of Shine. I'll let Todd say a little bit about what Shine's about.
Yeah, so we both co-founded Shine along with Alan and Chris. And back in 2008, we are a meeting and conference center. We do catering, and we have office space. And the hook for us is we recycle all of our profits for positive benefit in both the local community and the greater communities at large, namely with women ex-offenders that we employ from Aspen Grange and work them back into society. And yeah, so we're just going to hopefully share some insights from what it's been like to build a business like that, and hopefully you'll take away some learnings from our mistakes, and you won't make as many as we have. So.
Well, that's the hope. I'm going to be making notes. Okay, so to start with then, your story starts in the USA. So how and why is it in Yorkshire?
Well, Jess, I mean, I'm a Yorkshire lass, and I ended up over in the States for 12 years. When I was 25, I moved over and started my own business. And I think about 8 years after I'd been over there, I met Todd on an MBA course, and the rest is history. So we had got married, had a little boy, Kieran, and for some of the mums out there, I don't know how you feel, but when I had Kieran, I got very homesick, and that was really the draw back to Yorkshire. And it wasn't a well thought out career move. I had a business I had to close. Todd was in corporate sales with AT&T, so he had to give up his job, and it was very much kind of an emotional move. Sold the house in 4 days, and within 3 months we were flying back to the UK with no jobs. We'd bought a house in the UK, and the guy who was buying our house in the US had backed out, so we ended up with 2 houses, 2 mortgages, no jobs, and staying with my mum for a period of time. trying to figure out what we were going to do. And the easiest thing probably would have been to carry on and get some corporate jobs. We'd had a couple of offers for jobs, and it was really during a conversation with my mum and dad, and we were having a dinner, and we were talking about, well, what do we really want to do? And over that discussion, we thought we really want to do something that makes a positive impact on society, and we wanted to build something together, which was a much riskier thing to do when you don't have 2 jobs and you have 2 mortgages. But we decided that's what we wanted to do. And my mum mentioned this thing called social enterprise. And at the time, we had no idea what social enterprise was. And she said, well, it's like a business. It runs as a business, it makes profits, but then it redistributes those profits in terms of trying to make a positive impact and doing something good. And we just thought that was a fantastic idea. If we could use our business acumen over those many years to actually make a difference to an area that I grew up in, then that would be something very worthwhile doing. And that's kind of how it started. And the building, Shine, which used to be the Hare Hills Middle School on Hare Hills Road, it was derelict for 20 years. And Chris and Alan, who we partnered up with in the early days, knew about the building. And that's kind of how it started, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's how it started, and that's how we've gone from the US to the UK. And I guess I would just bring it all full circle, is that I've just become a British citizen in the past 2 weeks. So I am one of y'all. So I didn't say Yorkshireman, so don't anybody get upset. I'm not claiming to be Yorkshireman. I'd love to be one, but I know I'm not one yet. So, but I am a British citizen. So.
Sorry, and the building was really the catalyst, because the first idea was to bring the building back to life in one of the most deprived areas in the UK, in Hare Hills, in Leeds. So just by bringing the building back into use was a positive impact. But then it was, well, what do we make use of the building? And we came up with this model of mixing conference, office space and catering together as the engine that would generate income. And then we would make an impact on the community around us. So the whole idea was, how do we raise aspirations and create opportunities for people who wouldn't normally get those opportunities?
Yeah, and in the end, it was Chris Hill's fault, because he basically took us to the corner of this giant building and said, you want to make a difference, do something with that. And we're like, okay.
And Todd was gung-ho, and I can remember standing on the corner of Hare Hills Road, looking up, going, oh my God, this is such a massive project. It's going to take a lot of money. It's really risky. Yeah. But you convinced the 4 of us, didn't you, to make it happen?
So that's how we got to Yorkshire.
Great. That's fascinating. I've got feedback. I don't know if it's from yours, but we'll soldier on. It's fascinating that it was the building that came first rather than the business model. So I didn't know that. So I remember hearing about Shine and hearing that a rich American philanthropist had invested millions of money from his property portfolio to build Shine.
Yeah, there's a lot in that question. There's a lot of he and the man, which is also one of the issues of the story, is because it's very much a partnership, and Dawn is actually the leader of this partnership and has been for several years now. But no, we unfortunately didn't have a massive property portfolio and lots of money. We weren't philanthropists. We just wanted to do something right now while we were of the age, so we were in our 30s then when this all started. And so what we did was we dreamt big. So we saw the building and we thought, well, let's do something pretty big here. Let's just go for something massive. And we ended up gathering a big pot of money together from our own money, just cashing in our pensions, which was not millions. Public money, so we had some ERDF money in there, and Leeds City Council leggy money, and private finance. But it was about £5 million to do the project. And I think the interesting thing about that is that the thing when you're raising that much money, it's always the first money that matters. I think a lot of times we focus on, I need 5 million, so I need to go find some big backers. But actually, it was the first 50K that we raised that was both the hardest and the actual reason that we raised 5 million. So the hardest was because I had to convince Dawn and Alan and Chris we're above the job shop in Chapeltown at our first office. We just had them take the bars off the windows, and I'm coming into the office and saying, okay, there's 50K, but it's a loan, and so we have to pay it back. This is from the Key Fund. And they're looking at me like, 50K, we don't even have a contract yet for our little company that we formed. And so I did convince them to sign that, and I'll talk about that a little bit later maybe, but I did convince them to sign on to the 50K, and then that attracted 250K, which attracted 1 million, and so on and so forth. And then finally, I suppose, not being millionaire philanthropists, the other way that we ended up actually getting this building off the ground, which is, I always tell every entrepreneur that we help at Shine, is that unless you have the actual secret formula to Coca-Cola or whatever product you're making, you just need to tell as many people what you're doing. Because the first 6 months we spent going around covertly talking to people, and it was a top secret, and people said, oh yeah, don't tell anybody. There's been so many people who tried to do that building. And we got nowhere. And as soon as I started telling people, so many people came out of the woodwork to help us. So that was a game changer. As soon as I started telling people and networking and sharing our idea, we found our tribe, and we basically got on with it from there. So that's kind of how we got all the money together and got it off the ground.
Okay. So the journey for even the most successful entrepreneurs is never easy. Can you share with us some of your key challenges and how you overcame them?
Yeah, well,
wait, don't we need about 24 hours to tell?
It's a long story, that one. I mean, raising the money was just the start of it, really, and Todd played it down. It did take quite a lot of convincing to get all that money together. But once we'd got the money together and we'd hired the construction company, we were 3 months into the renovation of Shine, and the builders came to us and they said, you know that dry rot and wet rot that we told you about? Well, it's the biggest dry rot and wet rot that we've ever seen, and it's going to cost another £1 million to finish off the building.
Oh my goodness. And
we'd already borrowed way beyond, what most people would have borrowed, and the banks knew it was already a risky proposition. The thought of getting another £1 million was just a no-no, really. So that was the first challenge, and I'll let Todd say how we fixed that.
Because, that was 6 months into the build, and essentially what we did is we gathered all the contractors, everybody from the electricians to the general contractor to, I think maybe there might have been one of the funders in the group, and gathered them, all the architects, gathered them all around the table in the contractor's office on a Friday. And I remember it, and I think it was like February 2nd, because I remember it being like sort of Groundhog Day or something. And we get in there and Dawn and I spent the whole day going through line by line with them, deleting things. So the first thing, which was just really stabbed me in the heart as an American, was we had to delete the landscaping, so we had to do the building without landscaping, and that was a big chunk, and so we kept going down. Windows, everything, and we got down to the end of the day, and we still had a couple $100,000 that we couldn't reconcile, and so without even asking anybody on the team, on our team, I just said, well, we'll forego all of our fees, and what are you going to do? And turn to all the contractors and ask them, and ultimately, somebody said, well, maybe we should take a 15-minute break, because not all of them were directors in the room. So took a 15-minute break. Everybody went out and came back, and one by one, they all said, okay, we'll take 20K off our fee, 50K off our fee, 100K off our fee, something like that. And then we got to the £1 million gap closed on that Friday.
We also took another risk at that point, because we took some money that should have been for working capital. As we opened the doors, we used that for the capital to finish off the building. So we thought, well, we'll worry about that bit later. That did come back and bite us in the butt.
There wasn't a later to that, because that's another challenge.
Yes, but we got the building open, and then we finished the building in August 2008. just as the global recession hit, and all we could see on the news was people carrying out the files out of Lehman Brothers, and basically nobody was spending money on conferencing and meeting space. And as you can imagine, you're trying to open a brand new facility in Harehills and try and change people's behaviour from booking hotels in Leeds city centre to travelling a little bit further out to Harehills to make an impact on society and do something good. So trying to change people's behaviour along with the global recession and the fact that we didn't have the working capital that we hoped we'd had because we'd used it on the capital meant that we were running out of cash really quickly in those early days. And the company nearly went under. We ended up having to do a financial restructure after about 3 years. So that there was all that going on. And then the other things that went wrong, we made the mistake, we were running a consultancy company as well as running Shine at the same time. We hired the wrong person to head up Shine. Who
they weren't the wrong person. They were the wrong person for the job. They were a great person, but
yeah, they were great in terms of the face of Shine, but they didn't have all the business acumen that was needed to take it through that really difficult time. So lots of challenges and lots of times when you thought, can we keep going? Can we do this? But we just persevered through, didn't we?
Yeah. Yeah, I think one of the biggest challenges was trying to run 4 companies at the same time. That was probably one of the biggest mistakes we made. I think because when you start touching things and everything is turning to gold and you think, oh, you can't do anything wrong, hubris begins to set in. And so then you think, oh, I can do this, and why can't I do that? And why can't I do this? And before you know it, you're spread really thin and you're not doing anything really that well. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can resonate with that. So you've talked about the importance of getting the right people to work with you. What role have people played in your story, and how do you go about getting the right people?
Well, people is really everything. Shine is really. People are so important in terms of the people who work here, our customers and our partners, our suppliers. We've not taken a traditional approach on recruitment. We go to various sources and we do it all ourselves on recruitment. So we've got a real mix of, we go out locally into the Harehills community. We hire directly from women's prison in York, Askham Grange. And then we also mix that with kind of professionals from the hospitality environment, as well as using students. Jess, you mentioned we've had a lot of successful Trinity students at Shine. So it's the real mix, and we've always hired for attitude first and skills secondary, because we can teach a lot of the skills. And I think combined with the fact, and the people that join Shine have to be bought into the mission. So the fact that we take on women who are serving a custodial sentence, you have to be open to that and you have to be bought into that. And I think that's what creates the really lovely mix at Shine, because people see the transformation of these women's lives and they want to help them. And I have to say, some of our best staff have been the women who have come from the prison, because they're so driven. They've been, the children have been taken away from them. They're so driven to get back into society, to get the children who normally will end up in care, get the children back out of care and give them a chance, and also see the hope and the progression of the kids as well. So one of our longest serving members at Shine and most senior member at Shine is a lady who came from prison, and her son, she's got 4 kids, her eldest son has just graduated with a master's in marine biology. And it's that positivity that she's had over the last 7 years at Shine, and the progression that I think has helped, give the kids hope and also want to do amazing stuff. So I think it's the mix of people, and that's what creates the magic at Shine, and that's what I hope customers then see and are attracted to.
Because I think just to emphasize on the people part, we have a beautiful building. It is an iconic building and it is an amazing building, but it is nothing without two sets of people. One, our team, and two, the customer. And you can see that one piece is missing during COVID because it's back to the early days when there wasn't anybody here. And yes, people always give us compliments about the building, but then mostly all the compliments you get is not about us either. It's about the team and how lovely they are and how they can do things. And so for us, I think that was a big, I don't know if it was a learning curve, but it was something that we learned early on, was we needed to have the right people in place. It wasn't about, because we'd both gotten our MBAs and we thought we were these super smart people that can do whatever we want. And it really, at the end of the day, it's about, business is about, mano a mano, person to person. And once we finally got focused and didn't have four businesses and put it together, then we put the people first. So
yeah, and I think for us as well, because we have been through so many ups and downs and challenges, the team are the people that motivate us. When you come in every day and you actually see somebody's life being transformed, that motivates you to keep going. And so they've kind of pulled us up when times have been not great, and even during COVID, they've been amazing. So yeah, people.
Well, it is a beautiful building. If people haven't been, I urge you to go down, because it's beautiful, but it also has that wonderful feeling of optimism and things happening. And, I remember there were different charities were working there at some points and lots of people collaborating. So I get that was what you were striving to do, because you feel it as a customer coming in. So you've got a huge building. You've had loads of challenges. One of you is American. Are you natural risk takers?
One of us is.
Maybe one of us is a natural risk taker, but I think I'll speak to this because I'm the one who's probably pushed us to take the most risks. And I've had to convince Dawn all along the way. So
sorry, can everyone just put themselves on mute?
Anyone who's if there's other participants.
Okay, go. Okay. Carry on.
Yeah, so we just look at. I guess I have adapted what I learned in sales. I was a scientist first, then I went into sales, and what I learned in sales, I've tried to adapt to being an entrepreneur and working with a partner and partners, is that risk is really all about perception. And if you can change people's perception of the risk, then you can move forward. So for example, when we borrowed the first 50K and we had nothing, and we were in Chapeltown, the reason that I was able to convince them is I thought about it in a different way. And I thought it's not 50K, it's 600 quid a month for 5 years. And we have no business trying to develop a massive 40,000 square foot building if we're not willing to take a 600 pound a month risk between 4 people. And that was really that. I remember in the board meeting when we sat on the table and I said that, and even Chris, I think, had to say, well, actually, that's a good point. And that really changed the whole perception of the risk of that. And I think that another way we've tried to de-risk things by taking on such big projects is that we tried to do the absolute highest quality we could, given the funding that we have. You don't always have all the money you need, so you just have to do the best quality you can. And I think what that's done is allowed us to attract a wide breadth of clients. So we've got everybody from, investment banks to the NHS to universities to startup entrepreneurs, Yorkshire Water, Coca-Cola, all kinds of brand names come here as well. But I think the reason they come here is twofold. One is there's a high quality, but also they like the mission that we're on with, which is recycling to create a positive benefit. But we try to do both of those things in the highest quality. So whether the space is nice and the service is great, but also when we look to make a change, we do it at a small scale so we can make sure we do it well. So we don't have 50 women coming from Ascombe Grange every year. We couldn't handle that much, and it would become a bit more formulaic and probably not as impactful. We handle a handful every year. So I think quality has been a big de-risker. And then finally, when we did get the idea, as you said, following the space, it was to make it as flexible as possible. So we've actually been okay from a COVID standpoint, in not so much the meetings have been okay, because obviously those completely disappeared during COVID. But our space is very flexible and can be used for a lot of different things. So when people are calling us up and saying, well, can we do this or can we do that? The answer is usually yes, because we have we have small spaces and flexible spaces. So flexibility goes a long ways towards de-risking. And so I know the culture here is very much, very risk averse, but it really is about what is the risk and looking at it, breaking it down and then deciding how do you de-risk it with what you do. And that's what we've done. So.
And just to add to that, really, I mean, I do think, having lived in America for 12 years, that, the culture is very different over there. And I think I look at risk much more differently than I did when growing up in Yorkshire. It was very much like, can't do that, love. Bit risky that, you don't want to do that. You don't want to, no, you want a steady job. And I think in the States, everything is possible. Anything is possible. Everything is possible. If you have the desire and you put your mind to it, you can make it happen. And I think, there's a lot to be said for that, that attitude. And that's what I miss the most, actually, about the US, is that, gung-ho, anything is possible. And Todd has that in spades.
Yeah, it is getting better here. And I would say that, the foundation for keeping that attitude and trying to grow it while you're here is just having good advisors. I mean, we've had amazing people. I mean, Colin is our current chair, has been our chair for a while now. I mean, having someone who's a cheerleader for you, but who's also going to question you, I think has been really helpful to our journey. And I wouldn't advise people to sort of stock up on tons of advisors, but it's always good to get a good couple of people that you can trust. That you can trust and you get along with, who will actually tell you the truth, but will be cheerleaders, because it's no good to have a board of people who are just going to tell you the truth all the time. I mean, I don't need that. I can literally look at anything and go, okay, I know what the bad part is. You do need the cheerleaders. So I think it's finding advisors that can cheerlead for you as well. So.
That's interesting you say that, Todd, because often people say the opposite, that you need people to be the critical friend and tell you the truth. But you're saying the opposite. You need the optimism. You need the cheerleading.
You do need the cheerleader. They do need to tell you the truth. I mean, but I think a lot of times non-execs come to the job when they're advising, and they think that their only job is to tell the truth all the time and to be this wise sage of a person who tells you that, it is actually raining outside, you need an umbrella. And that's great. We do need people to say that, but if there isn't a little bit of cheerleading, then it's kind of like a dysfunctional parental relationship where it's just, you're always getting scolded and you're never being told you can do anything well. And so it just makes your job harder. So
yeah,
I think we've been lucky in that we found, especially in Colin, but I mean, over the years, we've had people that have been able to be both.
We see that a lot. I mean, I noticed Paula Grizzard's on as well. We ran a program with Paula starting in October called She Can Shine, and it was all about women entrepreneurs and encouraging them to get going. And I think one of the biggest challenges is people's self-belief or lack of self-belief that they can actually make it happen. And a lot of the time you're spending time just saying, yeah, that is possible, go for it. As long as it's well thought out, you've thought about everything, go for it. Because, that's what's missing from a lot of the women entrepreneurs, is that self-belief that we need. And we need more cheerleaders out there.
We run our company, going back to the people who run our company on something that's kind of a bit hippie-like. And Dawn didn't want me to include this necessarily, but I wanted. But we have made our HR thing all around this, and it's the 4 agreements. It's Toltec wisdom from the ancient I guess medicine men of the Native American culture. And one of the 4 agreements is don't take it personally. And what that really means is that people's actions towards you are mainly about themselves, not you. It's usually about them. And this relates in so much to this sort of telling people to, don't do anything, you don't get above yourself. They're really just worried for you because you're extracting a fear out of them, and it's the only way they can respond to that is by saying, "Oh, you shouldn't do that," because they're scared, not you. They're scared. So I think if you can remember that as you're going through, because I mean, when we were doing Shine and stuff, there was no shortage of people who told us we were absolutely nuts. I mean, and lots of people wishing we would fail. I mean, we were audited 3 times over a 3-year period because they couldn't figure out how we were making it work. We must be doing something wrong. It's not good enough.
Why are we doing it?
Why are we doing it? These people are crazy. And every time we passed, the very last one was actually done with the head of the meeting and conferences society or whatever it is, the national group. The former chair of that came in as a consultant and did it. He basically came away and just said, absolutely, doing everything absolutely perfectly. This is fine. And so even the people that were supporting you financially, trying to tear you down as you go through, it can be a trying process, but that's why you need the good advisors to help you through. So.
Yeah, great. Well, that's refreshing to hear. Okay, so the last question from me. So if I were thinking or already beginning a reinvention for myself, what advice would you give me?
Right. So we thought about this, and there's really 2 parts to it. The advice is to get perspective. That's the overall advice. But there's kind of 2 pieces to perspective. There's the emotional perspective and the practical perspective. I'm going to let Dawn talk about getting an emotional perspective, and then I'll come back and talk about the practical one.
Yeah, well, again, this is a personal thing, really. I came home from work just over 3 years ago, about 6 o'clock. It was a Tuesday night, and our son had gone over to his friends for dinner. And Todd said, "Oh, I'll make dinner. You can bob up because I normally just get a shower, try to chill when I got home from work." So got a shower, got out of the shower, getting ready. Todd was just shouted up, "I'm going to pop down to Sainsbury's and grab a bottle of wine." It felt like a bottle of wine kind of night with just the 2 of us. We didn't have our son with us, so we thought we'd make it a bit of a date night. And off he went. I was getting ready, and we've got this little app on our phone. I don't know if anyone's familiar with it, called 360 Life, and it tracks the members in the family where you are. And we mainly got it for our son, so we could find out where he was, because he's getting a bit older and wandering off and stuff. So we wanted to know where he was. So I was getting ready. Normally, I would get on my phone and I'd be doing the social media, messing about upstairs. And the app pinged and it went, "Daddy's home." So I knew Todd had got home. I thought, oh, instead of doing social media, I'll go down and help him with dinner. So walked down the stairs and turned around the bottom of the stairs, and Todd was completely collapsed in the kitchen and not moving at all.
Keep going.
Hard story to tell. Up until this point, he'd been complaining of GERD, saying his chest hurt him and stuff, and it was GERD. And as soon as I saw him on the floor, I knew it was his heart. I just knew it. And funnily enough, St John Ambulance had been based at Shine for 8 years. And every year I kept saying, I need to do that first aid course. I need to go on there. They run it every week. And 3 months before Todd collapsed, I actually took the course, and it was my ops manager who kept saying, "You keep saying it, you need to go on it." So 3 months earlier, I'd learnt CPR. And when I got to Todd, it was within 3 minutes of him collapsing, thank goodness. I knew what to do, because his heart had stopped and he had gone, basically. So I administered CPR, we got the ambulance, he was admitted to hospital, and he's still with us today. He had a 6% chance of surviving. Wow. So, stuff happens in life, and, I'll let you do the
Yeah.
practical.
So anyway, it's okay. I'm still here. So the reason we wanted to tell that story is really because it shouldn't take a heart attack or a cardiac arrest in my case to sort of shake your perspective up. But I think when things happen to you in life, it's what you do from those events, and do you digest the perspective, digest the event properly, and figure out how does it impact your life and how you're going to move it forward. So it may be something as little as maybe getting in a small car accident, or maybe a distant relative has died or something that you just thought would always be there. And so it's a lot of times we're so busy, and we were like this before that happened, is we're so busy chuntering out and doing, that we never really stop to think about, well, what is it, or actually what's life about? What are we doing? What kind of impact are we making? And so from an emotional perspective, that can give you that perspective you need to sort of get big ideas off the ground, or just even a small idea off the ground, and do your thing.
Well, and I think it also, didn't it? It kind of reaffirmed that, thank goodness we were making a difference in society. We were doing something that we loved, and that we weren't wasting, wasting away our life in some kind of corporate.
Yeah, but we did change how we worked after that.
We did.
I mean, that's definitely changed us. But there's a practical one to lighten the mood here a little bit. There's a practical way to look at your perception of what you're doing. And again, if we're talking about reinvention is always about sort of timing, isn't it? When are we going to reinvent? Oh, well, I'll do it next week, or when I get fired, I'll reinvent, or when something happens, to reinvent. But maybe sometimes we just need a little bit of a nudge. And so I've got a practical exercise we could all do right now. If you've got a pen and paper, if you don't, we've got a whole document about all the stuff that we've talked about and more. That's I think going to be on the Trinity website afterwards. But if you don't have a piece of paper and a pen, just follow along mentally. It's quite simple. Before I go through this exercise with you, I want to tell you something that stuck with me forever. And I think, how old was I? Must have been 27. I was leaving the engineering job and going to Atlanta. I was leaving New York State, moving down south to Atlanta to work for a .com. And so I was totally changing up what I was doing. And one of the I thought he was a middle-aged guy, but he probably was only like 32 at the time. And he came up to me in the car park. Literally, I'm driving away. I'm about never to see this office again. And he was a really nice guy. We were having a chat, and I can remember, his name was Vinny, and he's this little Italian guy. And he opened the door and he started talking to me about things. And he started getting kind of serious. And he said, look, I want to give you some advice my uncle gave me. He says, if you have a choice between time and money, always choose time, because you can never make back it, and you can always make more money. So, and that sort of just stuck with me. And while I've not always probably heeded that advice, I think in key decision points, and my brother's going through one right now where he's changing what he's doing and stuff. If you can think about it in terms of that, I think I found that to be really helpful. But anyway, here's the practical example. So you get a piece of paper, draw a line across it. On the left-hand side, 1, and on the other side, 100. So kind of like that, 1 and 100. So just a simple line, 1 and 100, okay? Now plot your age. I'm 52. So I put 52 on the scale there, and then I cross out everything from 1 to 52, okay? We saw this as a part of a presentation, which to see Mark Shaler, who's a really incredible genius of a guy. It's worth looking him up on the internet. Mark Shaler showed us this the first time, so that's how I found it. Anyway, so you got your age. Now take off what your expected life expectancy is. So let's just say 85, okay? And then mark out from 85 to 100, and so you should have somewhere between your age and the life expectancy. Now take off when you think you're going to retire. So let's say let's hope we retire these days. You're going to retire. Let's just put it at 75. So that's another 10 years down for me. Okay.
That's an American talking, 75.
Yeah. Anyway, so then you get between your age and the time you're going to retire, you need to take 2/3 of that and mark it out. Okay. So if I've roughly got 25, so I'll take about 18 of that and mark it out. And now I'm left with this tiny little, Oh yeah, sorry. We're marking the last 2/3 off because you got to sleep, you got to eat, you got to exercise. You hopefully going to see some family in the meantime, and I hope you're going to take some holidays and some weekends. So this little tiny sliver that's left on this line is all you've got left to make a dent in the universe. So if you're ever thinking about you got all the time in the world, try that exercise. It's quite illuminating, I would say. So anyway, I've written the exercise out on this document you can download afterwards. And hopefully you find that helpful. So I think the short answer to your question about advice is just to see if you can get a perspective, either emotional or practical one, to help you with your reinvention.
Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing and being so open and honest. Dawn, I know that was tricky for you. I can't believe you saved his life.
Yeah.
Incredible. And
Thanks to St John's Ambulance.
Yeah. Amazing. I need to go and book on.
Yeah.
And thanks for that. That's really scary, Todd, how little we have to make a difference. So thank you for doing that. So I want to move on to questions from delegates. Nick, you asked a question. Would you like to ask it directly?
Yes, I will. Hi Todd, hi Dawn, long time no see. I was involved in Shine in the very early days doing some marketing with the hot desking area, and it was fab then and it's fab now, so well done, congratulations.
Oh, that's nice, thank you.
Also went to your 40th birthday party on 4th of July, I think it was, wasn't it?
Oh, that's right, yeah.
Anyway, the question I was going to ask is obviously when you first set up, you had a mix of funding. You had European money, you had Leeds City Council, you had grants, you had bank loans, you had private investment and the like. Do you think it is absolutely possible to do that again now, or was that then and this is now and it's two different times?
That's a really good question. I don't think if you'd asked me that about 3 days ago, I would have said probably not. But I've had a couple of conversations with people recently who work in the area of raising finance. And what they have said to me is that there is a lot of cash at the moment washing around for businesses, because there's a lot of investors who have 50, 100, 200, maybe even $1 million or so. Lots of them that don't have anywhere to put it that's going to make any kind of decent return. So I would say there is a lot of money out there. You just have to start connecting with the right people to find it. I think from the large scale money there is, but it's a lot harder to come by than it was in 2007 when we raised almost 2 million in public money out of the 5 million. So I would say that's probably a little bit more difficult, but it is around. I mean, the Key Fund, for example, which was one of our early backers, they are definitely backing people still. I was talking to Matt, the chief exec, only a couple months ago, and they've stabilized all their investments and are bringing back the sort of the social investment side of it now that they've got all their existing investments stabilized, and they'll be investing more money. So I would say when it comes to attracting the money, one of the things that I didn't realize was so clever, I guess, but I was told afterwards that it really made a big difference, was I went to my first meeting with investors with a mocked up A5. Well, you help me on this, Nick. What's the board called? It's a big board. Is that A1 board? A1 board. Yeah. So an A1 board with beautiful color pictures, architectural rendering of what Shine could be inside and out. And they told me later that nobody had ever come to the first meeting, much less the 10th meeting, with any kind of pictures or any vision, visualization of it. So I think we rely a lot on, what we can say, and if we think we've got the gift of the gab, but really, if you can show people a picture, I mean, that makes a big difference. But the short answer is there is the money out there, Nick. It's the public money's not as big as it was in 2007, but it is still there.
Great, thank you. Great question. I can't see any other questions in the chat, but can I ask you, with COVID and the pandemic, you talked about being flexible. I know it's an amazing event space and the university have used it a lot for away days. Has it made you, what's next? Have you got future plans that you've thought of how to do things differently, or how did you get through the year?
Well, I think because of what we've been through, our immediate reaction was to scale right back to bare bones, and we kept challenging ourselves kind of in the March, April time when first lockdown hit. You know, how far back can we scale back, because we didn't know how long this thing was going to last. You know, I think at the time in April we thought, oh, by September things will be coming back, but of course we're a year down the road and it's still not back yet. So we took quite drastic action, scaling back, and unfortunately we lost half our team, even though we did use furlough and still use furlough for some of the people remaining. The government support's been life-saving, really, and all the government grants and furlough scheme and everything else, working with our banks for all the financial side. But it's interesting, having a big old Victorian building with extremely high ceilings and lots of fresh air actually is a good thing right now. We don't have air conditioning being pumped around a sealed building in the centre of Leeds. We have a big fresh air building. And we're also, because we're so flexible, we can turn a room into anything. So only last week, for example, we were able to create an office for 14 people for one day for a big corporate company. They wanted it for one day, they wanted 14 staff in, to work together, and then out again. So to answer your question, Jess, I mean, we're looking at flexibility is absolutely key, from, you know, hot desks to conferences.
But tell them what we've done in the business. I mean, we've streamlined.
Oh yes, we've used the time to basically automate and streamline and use technology. So we've effectively replaced our sales team with technology. What was our sales team with technology, and just improved all the processes within the business. We've done that, haven't we? And then we've done things like using our catering to do gift boxes at Christmas. So we've come up with different products and services as the years gone by. But now we are starting to see things trickling back. We are starting to see inquiries for 100 people for a meeting in September. We're getting bookings. So things are starting to come back.
I would say that one of the biggest things that helped us during this period, because it's not fun letting staff go, as I'm sure some people on this call have had to let staff go, is not a fun experience, especially when you invest a lot in them and you genuinely enjoy them as people. Luckily, I think almost all of our staff we've found other jobs, so that's good. But the acting fast and being brutal with yourself on how long it's going to take. I mean, and getting a good advisor, because one of the advisors we sought out said, you won't be back in business until September, October 2021.
And we were like, at the time,
we were like, whoa, that's a long time. And he's like, no, that's what we're seeing. And so we actually said, okay, well, if that's the case, then we really need to think about this. And because we had gone through a recession, nearly collapsed business, 2 or 3 big events in Shine's history, we knew that cash is king. And I'll tell you one thing, if you need cash, there ain't nobody gonna give it to you. Nobody wants to know you. That is the thing, when you don't have the cash. So you've got to make sure you conserve your cash and go for as much cash as possible when it's around.
You do have cash.
So for example, right now, if people haven't taken their CBIL loans or anything like that, I would encourage you to take as much money as you could possibly get out. You can always just pay it right back. But they will not give you the money when you're down to your last quid. So that's one of the things we just have been conserving cash and acting quickly. So anyway.
Interesting. So just to finish off from your talk, do you want to fly through your 7 lessons just as a summary?
Yeah. Right. Where's the list?
His memory's not quite as good these days.
Yeah.
We will share this.
Yeah, so I think the first lesson. Well, what was the first lesson? Well, I guess I would say that I'm seriously drawing a massive blank because my brain is absolutely fried.
Well, I think
I've sent you a curveball.
Well, no, I shouldn't have. I wrote them down yesterday. I'm like like a 95-year-old person in my
Well, one of them is about dreaming big.
Yeah, so dream big.
Dreaming big.
Dream big, act small. I think that was one of them. Risk is about perception.
Yeah.
Get the right people.
Yeah, get the right people. Everything is all about people.
All about the people.
What else was there? So there was risk.
And just have time in mind, because time is short. And,
yeah, time of the essence.
You never know what's going to come round and hit you. So, always be thinking about that.
Yes, and you can start with a lot less than you think.
Yeah, that was it. I couldn't think about it.
And we got.
I think that's one of the biggest ones, is you can start with a lot less than you think. So.
Well, it's been such a positive session, and so lovely to hear your story. Thank you for being so open and honest with us all. And for delegates who are here, we're going to share this recording and share some materials that Todd's put together and Dawn. So hope you can join me in giving them a round of applause. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. And then finally, just to finish off, the theme of reinvention is really pertinent to me personally, because this is my last ever Leeds Trinity Business Network, because I'm leaving Leeds Trinity University. I sent a farewell message last week. Thank you to everyone who sent me messages back. I had so many. It was wonderful, and I will respond to each one personally. So if I haven't replied yet, I will. But I got over 100, and it was amazing. So thank you. So I'm going to be leaving the university to join a social enterprise called Generation UK, and Generation started in America, full of optimism. And what they do is they train and support and place young disadvantaged people into very much in-demand jobs. So it's starting in Leeds. I'll be the director, and I will grow and shape it. So it's a bit of a scary thing for me. I'll be like you, starting up, being an entrepreneur with it, shaping it. And maybe all the network sessions over the years have actually got me into this mindset that I need to go and set up something for my own. So it is a bit of it's moving from HE to charity sector. It's moving from I'll still be employed, of course, but it will be shaping something new for the Leeds City region. So it will start with tech and digital roles and move to health and green jobs as they grow. So it really follow where the jobs are growing. So I feel in a way it's a continuation of what we're doing, what I'm doing, but in a more concentrated way. But the one thing that I really am sad, well, there's lots of things I'm sad to miss, but building the Leeds Trinity Business Network has been an absolute highlight of my career. This network turns 10 years old in June, this coming June. So I hope you'll come to the June session and help celebrate that. I started it up to create a really supportive B2B platform and a network where people could feel trusted and safe, and could learn from each other and build good connections, and that it was diverse. And I hope I've achieved that. And from all the comments I've received, I think I did something towards that. So, but of course, a network wouldn't have been a network without you all. So thank you to everyone who's come and supported and who's spoken at it. And I think over the years, we've really celebrated the arts, and we've celebrated the third sector, and we've done lots of things that standard business networks don't do. And we've kind of pushed boundaries, and we've done a lot on digital and innovation. And last year we were nominated for the Leeds Digital Festival Awards for Facilitator of the Year. So for a kind of little small university network, I was really proud of that. And Christopher helped with a lot of that. So I want to give Christopher a huge thank you, because he's made all of these events possible, and he's worked so hard at it, and he will continue to coordinate these events for you. And of course, my replacement will come in and head up the business network and really listen to you about what's of interest and what people want and what businesses want. So it is your network. If I could take it with me, I would. But of course, it needs to stay with Leeds Trinity, and it is a really integral part of the university. And I'm really proud of it. So I'm getting a bit emotional. But so thank you to everybody. Do link in on with me, and we'll stay connected. And I wish you all the very best. So thank you for everything. So Thanks so much, everybody. We'll call that to a close. We finished a bit early. That never happens.